Hi, I'm walking you through how to set up your GitHub Copilot so that you can maximize all this functionality and you can have at least 90% setup of your environment in such a way that is going to be properly set up to manage any tasks, troubleshoot issues, handle test cases, and also you'll be able to also customize your own agent within the workspace itself. Now, what you need to know is that Copilot has been around for several years. Even though it's been used previously, it's been used for some minor tasks, such as code review and reviewing code on GitHub. Now in 2026, it has matured and it has materialized into an interesting AI coding platform. Now, if you want to understand how it works, you need to follow this my explanation so that you'll be able to harness all its functionality. Now, with respect to Copilot, it actually goes beyond a one size fits all approach. You get to choose your own LLM. You get to optimize for speed. You get to optimize for cost, for accuracy. You can also pick your own model as well. You could also bring in your own model. You could add MCP, and you can also customize your own agent where you get to use your own agent your way. Now, one thing that is interesting about Copilot is that it allows you to custom your own agent, or you can bring in a third party that you already rely on. Now, also, you have to stay in your flow where you have a accurate documentation, where Copilot works where you are in the GitHub on your IDE. You also have a built-in IDE, a built-in CLI, project management tools, a chat interface, and then also a custom MCP that you can set up for your MCP server. Also, the code, the command, and the collaborate, everything is currently in one package. Now here, we're going to be leveraging VS Code for its setup. It works perfectly with VS Code, where you can turn Autopilot into a project expert. You can also manage your agent with enterprise-grade control. And also in terms of security, you can securely set up your MCP integration. Now, this is the pricing model for individual and also for business, where it is basically for free. And also they have a Pro plan and a Pro Plus plan and also a Max plan. In terms of for businesses can actually subscribe for $19 per month, or you can have a enterprise custom pricing. Now, GitHub Copilot is available on different platforms, on GitHub, obviously, also on VS Code, on X tools, Eclipse, and I believe this is JetBrains as well. Okay, now let's get started. To get started, go to github.com, and if you go to github.com, you can click on use as an agent. Once you see use as an agent, this is the interface that you can use, and you can use this interface. It's going to point to your repository where you can set all this up. All these things are the cloud interface. But if you want to use GitHub Copilot and you want to harness about 90% of its functionality, we're going to go with the VS Code approach. The first thing you would like to do is go to VS Code, go to your Google, and type VS Code download. Once you type VS Code download, you specify your Mac. It automatically detects my device, which is on Mac. And as you can see, it's asking me to download. Once you click on download, it's going to download the application. Once you download the application, we are going to start setting up our environment so that we can have our agent set up. Now it hasn't set up. The next thing you want to do is you want to connect your VS Code to your GitHub. You click on this, and if you don't have this option here, it's going to ask you to sign in. So once you click on sign in, it's going to redirect you to GitHub, and you sign in. Once you sign in, you're going to have this. Here you get to see your credit, and then also you get to see your inline suggestion that you enabled. You also have your code base semantics index, and then your session sync. You want to enable that. The session sync is sync your session data to GitHub.com account, so that if you're using a different account or you want to use a different session, it recognizes and reestablishes your session. And this is what you get to see once you click on the settings, where you can see all the usage. You can see your additional usage here. You can also have your featured here as well, which you can see. Now, one thing about GitHub Copilot is it doesn't lock you out once you hit your limit in terms of the usage limit. One thing you can also do, you can also add a budget to it, because sometimes when you're actually writing some code and you're basically stuck. If you're stuck and you want to unstuck yourself, you can go with the pay as you go approach, where your usage is tied to your credit, and you can add your credit. It's tied to your budget. Excuse me. And once you add your budget here, you'll be able to continue with your agent will be able to continue doing his task once it have exhausted the credit. To do that, you click on edit budget. If you specify $200, if you update the budget, it's going to basically update this. So the moment I exhaust my usage, it's going to fall back to the additional usage, which is a pay as you go usage for additional AI credit. So that way it doesn't lock you out from your development. And then also you can also see your billing here. So this billing allows you to have an overview. As you can see in my Claude Opus 5, I've been using more of Claude Opus 5 compared to Claude ICO 4.5. So here you can also see a detailed breakdown that, okay, my Claude Opus has consumed $44.70, while my Claude ICO is actually 16 cents. You can actually see the comparison. If you go to overview, you'll be able to see the pricing model around it. And then you can also check your action, how much you spend, your usage on actions, code space, and also the models itself. Some people tend to confuse the Copilot and the model. The model is the model that you're selecting. Here, as you can see, usage by repository, work jumbo has consumed 66 cents in terms of usage by repository. If you go back to overview, Copilot, you click on view details, you'll be able to see the details of your usage here. Now, that is how you authenticate your GitHub Copilot. Now, the next thing you want to do is you want to create a new workspace. Now, let's get started into harnessing about 90% of our VS Code capability, Copilot's capability on VS Code. The next thing you want to do is you want to create a new file, or you want to open. Let's click on open. Here, you want to click on, let's create a new folder. Let's call it sample, or let's call it MySpace. You click on MySpace, that is going to be your workspace. Now, this is your workspace, and your workspace is basically brand new. And here you can see it says that use skill set to create a new skills agent and can load relevant. Now let me explain what is going on here. On the left hand side, this is where you get to specify you get to choose the explorer, you get to search files or folder, you get to have your source control once you initialize your GitHub. You also get to debug or run some of your application, and then also extension for marketplace. And as you can see, I already have Rainbow CSV extension installed. In your case, you might not have anything installed. If you want to install any package, you just search for it and you install it. Also, for MCP server, you can also enable MCP server from the marketplace here. You click on enable. This feature is currently in preview. You can disable it anytime in settings. So this functionality allows you to browse and install MCP directly from VS Code to extend agent mode. Once you have that, as you can see, it has been enabled. Now it allows me to be able to install these MCP servers here. If I want to install GitHub MCP server, I'll just click on install and it's going to install it. Or I could also install it in this workspace. So it is localized to this workspace only. If I click on Superbase, click on install, it's going to install Superbase MCP server on the system. But installing workspace is going to install it on the workspace itself. But we don't want to do that. And then also here you get to specify your profile, and this is your GitHub profile. You could also sign out if you have multiple GitHub accounts. Also, backup and sync settings. You could also turn on cloud changes, such a way that anytime you make changes on your VS Code here, it actually replicates on any other VS Code that you have that you also sign into the account. You can also turn on remote tunnel access. And then also in your settings, you can also have different settings set up. So that is on the left hand side. Now there's also this panel. This panel, that is where you manage your files, and then also you also see the timeline of changes that is happening in your files as well. So for example, this is file, let's say .github, or let's say sample.txt. So this is what you have. And also the next thing is folder, where you want to create a new folder. You also want to refresh, and you want to collapse all the folder. Let's see how that looks. Sample folder. Let's create the file inside of it. Test.txt. Okay, here you click on this, it collapses and it opens back up if you click on it. Okay, and then this section here is your coding, where you get to see the code that has been written, or information about a particular extension that you're trying to do. And this right hand side is your session. This is where you get to interact with the agent, you get to pass an instruction to the agent, or you can spin up multiple agents, or you can also spin up multiple sub agent. The moment you click on plus here, from outside of a session, a new agent or sub agent is going to pick up the task. So that way you can actually work on two things at the same time, or multiple things in parallel at the same time. That's one of the benefits of using VS Code, Copilot on VS Code. Now let's explain this chat session here. There's something called session. So each chat is more like a session that is being spun up, and each of those sessions are basically handled by an agent. If you click on plus sign here, you can start a new chat. You can chat editor, chat window, a new codex agent. You can also spin it up as well. Now here, if you click on this GI icon here, you can also have an overview about the state of your agent, skills, instruction, hooks, MCP server, plugins. You can also define a new agent. You want to create a new agent, you click on that, it creates a new agent for you. If you want to create a new skills, if you click on that, you can generate a new skills. Type the skills of your choice, and it's going to generate the skills. We'll be doing that in a minute. So let's go through the options that we saw. Let's go back to overview. Instruction, if you want to create a new instruction, your AI can also generate an instruction for you. Also prompt. So prompt is more like a reusable prompt for common development. For example, you want to perform some unit testing, some scaffolding, or you want to generate a new code. So that's what prompt actually used for generally. And then hooks also. So these are the prompt executed at a specific point during an agentic lifestyle. Maybe at one point in an agent, you want a particular task to be done. That's more like a hook. And also MCP server, basically this allows you to communicate with other AI agents as well. So the way an application API, two computers talk to each other is via API. But in this case here, if two agents want to communicate, they tend to use MCP protocol to communicate. So in order for that to take place, that's why you set up your MCP server. For example, let's say Figma. You have your design on Figma. You can actually have your MCP server on Figma. Or if you have Anima design, you can also connect it to Anima, so that the design on Figma or Anima is going to be utilized by your AI agent on VS Code, leveraging Copilot. So if I click on this and I click on install, I didn't click on install and I click on install, it's going to install the Figma MCP server. And then also we also have plugins here, which you can also browse the marketplace for. The marketplace here is similar to the marketplace here on the left hand side. So one of the first things I would say you should do to get yourself up and running is you can actually generate more agents here. You can generate an agent that let's say a front-end agent. Let's just say let's generate an agent here. New agent workspace. Create an agent. So what job should this agent do and how? Let's say create an agent. Oh, before we even start creating an agent, let me finish the entire section here. So here you can also show the agent debug logs. You can also show voice transcript, whatever voice you've actually passed into the agent. And then also you can also maximize this section here, which is going to take up the entire screen. If you want to close it, you can also close it. If you want to open it back up, you click on the top there. You You could also refresh whatever session you have. You can search through the session. You can also filter agent session. If you have a lot of agent session running, you could also filter that as well. You could also show agent session sidebar, which is this. But let's close it. We don't want to see the agent sidebar. So that's everything at the top. Now let's go below. Now below that, let's clear this out. Now here, if you click on this plus sign, it has a question, which is open editors of file and folder, instructions, screenshots, symbols, all of this stuff. It's basically going to ask you some of those questions. And then if you toggle on this, you get to specify the agent. You want to work in an agentic mode, or you want to work in ask mode. This ask mode is more like you asking a question, but there's no changes, more like a ChatGPT. So instead of you having to have a conversation with ChatGPT, you can also have an agent. You can also have a conversation with the Copilot as well. Now for the planning itself, so before you implement anything, always plan. So the plan is going to be a step-by-step guide into, okay, these are the things that need to get done. Let me make sure that you align with all the train of thought of things that need to get done is properly documented before it actually get implemented. So planning is your to go. To start a new project, to work on an existing project, or to actually make changes, always plan before you prompt. Don't prompt just for prompt's sake. Prompt with context, prompt with clarity. Also, you can also configure your own custom agent where you can create your own agent. You can also generate an agent. You can also make the agent to generate an agent for you. So in case you don't understand how that works, I've done a couple of videos on how to create an agent and also sub-agent. You can check it out. But here, if you want to check it out, you're like, okay, you know what? I don't have time to start scrolling through Google. You could just tell your agent to create an agent for you, and you can specify the kind of agent it's going to create. So that's that. And also the most beautiful thing is also being able to select different model. Here you can specify different Claude model or GPT model, and then also you can also specify Gemini model as well. Also you can also be on auto. If you click on this J icon on other model, it's going to now open you to a whole new flow of other agents where you get to see the name, the context size, their capabilities, and also the cost. So this gives you good understanding about the model of your choice when you're actually doing development. So as you can see, we have more agents here. Now, if your agent is not here and you need to add more agent, you can also add a model. I mean, if your model is not here and you need to add some more to it, you could also add it, or you could also have a custom endpoint for your own agent of your choice. Also, you can also install a model providers. If you click on that, you see model providers here, which you can also install. Here, we are already using our GitHub Copilot, so we'll be using our GitHub Copilot. Some also use DeepSeek, but we're not going to use DeepSeek here. We're going to be using the GitHub Copilot for our flow. And here also, you can also adjust the thinking effort of your model. And then the last side here is going to be the configuration tool. Now, it's very essential. I recommend you enable all this functionality. Why? Because you want to delegate a task to an agent, okay? And then also your browser, you want to make sure that you have access, your agent have access to the browser. Your agent is also able to edit files. Your agent is also able to execute tasks, read, do some research, add a to-do. To-do is more like, okay, these are the things I need to get done. I need to make sure that everything is properly set up. Having to-do, yeah, allows you to manage and track to-do items for task planning. And also ability for you to fetch information from the web. A typical example of that is if you're working on a project and your agent needs to have access to the internet, your agent should be able to like fetch information from the internet and use that to inform its own decision. An example of that is, let's assume you're trying to perform some activity and you need to download a package from the internet, but the package is broken. So your agent can actually do some troubleshooting by searching the internet for the package or checking out some forums to see what was discussed. And they can use that informed decision in the forum to actually fix its own problem. And then also there's something regarding Stack Overflow AI agent, which they're also trying to make AI to be able to like communicate to each other. So these are something that you could also benefit from. Also here, you can also specify the local environment, which is your current VS Code, cloud, which is you want to delegate this task to the cloud. And the agent is going to iterate via this chat to work in the cloud and in the cloud environment to implement all the changes, all the pull requests. That is pretty nice because you don't get to use your system resources. It basically just leverage the cloud. So that way, even though if you have a very slow computer, you can still interact with an agent, and the agent is going to be an agent that is in the cloud. And also Copilot, you can run a Copilot SDK agent in the local host process. So this is more like an SDK running on your local environment. Now, default approval. Now here, you can have all allow. So it runs tools call without asking. It's never going to ask you. I jumped a gun there. I just started with default approval. Here, ask when approval settings doesn't apply. And is more like a sandboxing for the terminal where you ask you a question, you provide an answer, and more like interactive session. But if you don't want it to just be all allow every single thing. So the tool is going to run without asking anything. And then also there's autopilot and preview mode, which is going to autonomously iterate from start to finish. It's never going to ask you any question. It's going to assume full control. It's on autopilot. It's just going to go full blast into implementation, into planning, thinking, implementation, research, web search, the whole 9 yards. And then also, but in this case here, we are keeping it at default approval. So that's how you see this here. If you click on allow all, it's going to ask you, are you sure? Enable allow all. It's going to allow auto approved all tools call without asking for any confirmation. It includes edit, terminal commands, and also external tool. Let's say enable, and you see the icon changed as well. If you go to autopilot, you can see this, but let's keep it on default approval for now. Now this is also this notification bell. If you have any notification, it shows up here. And also this allows you to see your Copilot credit. You could decide to upgrade. You could also decide to fine tune. Yes. Now this, once you're able to understand every single thing I just explained, you've been able to successfully achieve full clarity of the usage of VS Code using your Copilot on VS Code. Now, the next thing you want to do is let's create our own custom agent. Okay. Now, before you create your own custom agent, let's create an instruction. Now, here on your workspace, the way it works is in your workspace, you need to have a default directory called .github. Now, your .github is more like that is where your agent instruction, your agent prompt, creating a custom agent. That is where the whole stuff is going to stay. Now, once you have that set up and you have the whole flow figured out, now in our case, we want to have like 3 main flow. We want to have .agent. Oh, we don't even need to do that. You can actually specify your agent to do that. Create agent. Create an agent that handles planning. So it's going to create an agent that handles planning. Now let's observe what it's going to create. Now it's reading something called agent customization, and this is a built-in skills that comes with Copilot on VS Code, where you can also edit these skills as well. You could also edit it because this was set to read only assets in this session. If I want to overwrite it, I could just click on this, and it's going to allow me to overwrite this. So as you can see, you'll be able to specify, you'll be able to answer the question that is asking you, which is where should the project planning agent live? Now, if you go through this flow, you'll be able to specify where the agent should live, how you want it to be structured, more like interactive. Remember, this was set to default approval. We never allow all, and also we didn't allow auto preview. So this is how you can understand the entire scope of setting up Copilot on VS Code that are going to allow you to harness the full potential of VS Code. Understanding the scope, understanding the capability is a major milestone, and then you'll be able to achieve anything you want. On Copilot, you can also set up multi-agent, parallel agent. You can also set up a CEO agent or a chief of staff agent that actually oversees every other agent.